Imagine waking up one day in a world where nothing made sense. No names, no labels, no rules. Just colors, shapes, and sounds you couldn't explain. That's exactly what happened to a young man named Caspar Hauser. Locked away from birth, he had never seen sunlight, heard a voice, or touched another human being. When he was finally released into society, everything overwhelmed him. He didn't know what a spoon was, couldn't recognize his reflection, and didn't even understand that he was a person. But within months, his mind adapted. He learned language, adopted a name, accepted a history that had never been his. His brain didn't wait for facts. It filled in the blanks because it needed to make sense of the chaos. And here's where it gets unsettling. If Caspar Hauser's mind could create an entire version of reality out of nothing, what do you think your mind has done? You were born into a story too, given a name, a culture, a belief system. From the moment your senses switched on, you started accepting a version of the world you never chose. You trusted it because everyone around you did. But what if that reality isn't as real as it seems? In this video, I'm going to show you why your reality isn't real and why the evidence is everywhere. We'll dive into how perception works, how your consciousness filters and fabricates your experience, and most importantly, how to wake up from the illusion you didn't even know you were trapped in. Let's begin. 1. The illusion of a solid reality. Imagine waking up in a world where nothing looks familiar, where objects, people, and even your reflection mean absolutely nothing to you. That was the life of Caspar Hauser, a boy who lived his entire childhood in total isolation. When he was finally released into society, he had no idea what anything was. His mind had to build a reality from scratch, naming things, understanding roles, assigning meaning. And just like Caspar, all of us have constructed our perception of reality based on what we were taught since birth. From the moment we open our eyes as babies, the world starts shaping us. We're told, this is a chair, this is your name, this is what's true. We don't question it. How could we? It's all we know. That's where the illusion begins. What we call reality is actually a story we've inherited, not a truth we've confirmed. Think about it. Have you ever asked yourself if what you believe is real, or just something repeated so often it became real to you? And the funny thing is, this illusion is comfortable. It gives structure, meaning, and a sense of certainty, but that certainty isn't truth. It's programming. You may believe you're seeing reality, but in truth, you're seeing a filtered, constructed version shaped by culture, family, media, and education. The cracks start showing when you notice how different people see the same situations so differently. That's your cue that perception isn't reality, it's projection. That's why so many people feel a calling towards spiritual awakening. It's that quiet inner voice whispering, something's off. It's not that reality is fake, but maybe it's not as solid as we've been told. Once you start seeing these cracks in the wall, the question naturally follows. If our senses are guiding us, how reliable are they really? 2. You don't experience the world directly. Here's a mind-bender. You've never truly seen the world. What you're experiencing isn't reality, it's your brain's version of it. Light enters your eyes, sound waves hit your ears, textures press against your skin, and then your brain goes to work, turning all that raw data into something you can understand. You think you're seeing color? Nope. You're seeing how your brain interprets different wavelengths of light. Everything around you is filtered through your nervous system. Imagine watching a 4K movie with thick sunglasses on. That's your perception of reality, sharp enough to feel real, but ultimately filtered. Your brain constructs the entire picture. When you look at a tree, you're not seeing the tree itself, you're seeing your brain's rendering of it. That's wild, right? It's like living in a permanent virtual reality simulation, and most people never realize it. And it gets even crazier. You can only hear within a limited frequency range. You can't hear what a dog hears or see what a bee sees. There are colors, sounds, and sensations beyond your reach, simply because your brain isn't wired to perceive them. This makes you wonder, how much of reality are you missing? How much of what's really out there is invisible because your brain decided it wasn't relevant? Now think about how this connects to spirituality. Ancient mystics weren't just being poetic when they said reality is an illusion. They were onto something. If our senses are unreliable, then awakening isn't about adding new truths. It's about peeling away illusions. And once you get that, a new question arises. If everything is interpreted, how can we ever live in the present moment? 3. Living in the past. The brain's delay. Most people don't realize that what they call now already happened. Your brain takes a fraction of a second to process everything you see, hear, and feel. That might not sound like a big deal, just a few milliseconds, right? But think about it. Your consciousness is always lagging behind reality. You're constantly reacting to something that's already gone. Your entire perception is a highlight reel, not a live stream. Imagine watching a soccer game on a slightly delayed TV broadcast. You cheer for a goal that happened seconds ago, but to you, it feels like it's happening right now. That's exactly how your mind operates. It fills in blanks, smooths out delays, and creates a seamless story. But it's not the raw feed, it's the edited version. And once you grasp that, it changes the way you see your thoughts, your choices, your life. This delay also plays tricks on your emotions. You feel something, react to it, then justify it. But all that happens after the brain already decided what to feel. That's why people say things like, "I don't know why I reacted that way." It's because your consciousness is always trying to catch up. You're not really in charge. You're playing catch-up with your own biology. And that's a pretty big pill to swallow. But here's where it gets fascinating. Once you see that you're living slightly behind, you begin to slow down. You start to notice the patterns, the timing, the autopilot. And this awareness is the seed of awakening. Because if you're always behind, what happens when you stop chasing the present and just observe what's already there? 4. Dreams and waking life. Two sides of the same coin. Think about your last dream. Maybe you were flying, talking to someone who passed away, or stuck in a bizarre version of your childhood home. In that moment, none of it felt strange. It felt real until you woke up. And that's the kicker. While you're dreaming, your brain constructs a world so vivid, so detailed, you don't question it. Waking life, in many ways, isn't so different. It just feels more consistent because we share it with others. The mind is a master storyteller. Whether you're asleep or awake, it's spinning narratives non-stop. In a dream, it fabricates time, emotion, even physical laws. But here's the twist. Waking life uses the same machinery. Your brain doesn't suddenly switch into truth mode when you wake up. It's still guessing, filling gaps, making assumptions. That's why dreams feel real, and real life sometimes feels like a dream. It gets even more interesting when you realize your brain reacts to imagined events the same way it reacts to real ones. You can think about a stressful meeting tomorrow, and your body will release stress hormones like it's happening now. That's perception in action. You don't need an external event for your mind to create reality. So if dreams can hijack your emotions, why wouldn't waking life be just another long dream? This realization cracks something open. It forces you to question what's actually real. Is it the consistency of waking life, the logic, or just the fact that we all agree it's happening? If your brain can produce an entire dream world while you sleep, then maybe this so-called real world deserves a closer look. Because the more you notice the similarities, the more you begin to ask, who's really directing the show? 5. The illusion of free will and the self. Here's a wild thought. What if you're not the one steering the wheel of your own life? Neuroscience has shown that your brain makes decisions before you're even aware of them. Yep, by the time you think you've made a choice, your brain already clicked the button. That you who believes they're in control, just a narrator explaining the story after it's already happened, kind of like a sportscaster pretending to call the shots. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself wondering, why did I just say that, or where did that thought even come from? It's because most of your thoughts, desires, even fears pop up without permission. You didn't plan them. They just showed up. It's not free will. It's free fall. You're reacting, improvising, and then justifying everything afterward. The illusion here is thinking you're the author of a book you're actually just reading. Now let's throw identity into the mix. Most of what you call you is a result of past conditioning. Your family, your culture, your experiences. If you had grown up in a different country, with different parents and beliefs, would you still be you? Of course not. That means your self is flexible, shaped by environment and perception, not some unchangeable essence. It's a character built from downloaded software. And here's the twist. This isn't bad news. It's liberating. If the self is a story, that means it can be edited. You can start questioning your default settings. You can step back and watch those thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. And once you start observing instead of identifying, you'll naturally begin to notice something even more surprising. Your mind doesn't just create the self, it edits what reality shows up in the first place. 6. The mind filters out reality. Ever heard of that famous gorilla experiment? People are asked to count basketball passes, and in the middle of it, a person in a full gorilla costume walks right through the scene. Most viewers don't see it, not because they blinked, but because their brain deleted it. That's right, your mind is constantly editing reality based on what it thinks matters. What doesn't match your focus or beliefs gets tossed into the mental trash bin before you even know it existed. Your perception is like a customized filter built from your past, your fears, your beliefs. If you believe the world is dangerous, your brain will show you threats. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll only notice betrayal. This isn't woo-woo, it's cognitive science. We don't see reality as it is, we see it as we are. That's why two people can experience the same event and walk away with totally different memories of it. This gets deeper when you consider how your mind fills in the blanks. Like a lazy editor, it doesn't record everything, it just assumes what should be there. That's why you might confidently remember things that never happened. Your brain wants a coherent story, not the truth, so it invents, deletes, and adjusts. And we walk around thinking we're seeing facts, when really we're looking at fiction that feels real. And here's the punch. This filter doesn't stop at what we see. It touches everything. Our emotions, our thoughts, our memories, all influenced by what the mind decides to show. If you've ever had a heated argument and later thought, wait, did that really happen like I remember? You've seen this filter in action, which makes you wonder, if the mind hides so much, how can we trust what it lets through? 7. Ancient wisdom meets modern science. Long before lab coats and brain scans, ancient mystics were already talking about the illusion of reality. The Buddhists called it anatta, the idea that there's no fixed self. The Hindus spoke of Maya, the grand illusion. These weren't just poetic metaphors. They were insights gained through deep inner exploration. Fast forward a few thousand years, and guess what? Neuroscience is catching up. Scientists are now proving what yogis and sages intuited ages ago. Modern brain research tells us there's no central I in your head running the show. Instead, there are scattered processes doing their thing, perceiving, reacting, narrating. It's like a jazz band without a conductor, yet somehow music still plays. This aligns perfectly with what ancient teachings have always said. The self is a useful fiction. It helps you function in the world, but it isn't ultimately real. Just because a story feels real doesn't mean it is. What's fascinating is that these ancient spiritual paths were less about belief and more about direct experience. They encouraged practices like meditation, fasting, silence, not to escape reality, but to see through it. These tools quiet the noise, strip away the filters, and reveal what's been there all along. Many people who dive deep into these practices come back saying, "Everything I believed was a dream." And they're not being dramatic, they're being honest. So now we're in this beautiful moment in history where ancient wisdom and modern science are shaking hands. Both are pointing to the same truth. What we call the self and reality are not as solid as they seem. And once you realize this, it opens a doorway. Because if these core assumptions can be questioned, what else might be up for revision? 8. Awakening. Becoming the observer. At some point, the game changes. You stop trying to control every thought, every reaction, and start watching them instead. This is where true awakening begins. Not by becoming someone new, but by realizing you were never who you thought you were. You're not the thinker. You're the awareness behind the thoughts. The one watching the mind spin its stories, replay its fears, build its illusions. And when you see this clearly, something inside you shifts for good. It's like stepping off a spinning carousel and realizing it was never moving you anywhere, just keeping you dizzy, that constant inner voice. It's not you, it's just noise. When you stop identifying with it, you gain space. Space to breathe, space to choose, space to see. And in that space, perception changes. The world feels lighter, like it's no longer pressing against your chest. You're finally outside the storm, watching the clouds instead of being lost in them. This observer state doesn't mean you stop living or feeling. It means you start experiencing life from a deeper place. You laugh, cry, work, love, but without being enslaved by the story in your head. You stop chasing perfection and start noticing truth. You begin to appreciate silence. You see emotions as waves, not identities. And when fear arises, you notice it instead of becoming it. That's power. That's clarity. Most people never get here because they're too busy being the main character in a story that's been written by their conditioning. But you're waking up. You're beginning to glimpse what's real beneath the illusion. And now, with that awareness growing, the next step becomes irresistible. What happens when you let go of the script entirely and live from the stillness that's been watching all along?